Session is called to order. Please rise for the singing of the national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupit, di ka pagsisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong baghang, may nilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagtitipid, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walo aming pagsikta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Please remain standing for a minute of silent prayer. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may I move that we defer the calling of the roll. So moved.
Any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, may I move for the deferment of the approval journal of previous sessions. So moved.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we now proceed with the reference of business and request the Secretary General to directed to read the titles of bills and resolutions on first reading as well as communications and committee reports. So moved.
The Secretary General is directed to read the bills on first reading, resolutions, and others.
Reference of business, bills on first reading, House Bill 4508, providing a housing program for teachers, Representative Vargas.
Committee on Housing and Urban and Development.
House Bill 4509, providing for a national framework for students' rights and welfare, Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4510, requiring mandatory teaching of human rights in all public and private schools, Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4511, recognizing the German-European School in Manila Incorporated as an educational institution of international character, Representative Uy Barreta.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4512, recognizing Everest Academy as an educational institution of international character, Representative Uy Barreta.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4513, renewing the franchise granted to Radium Marine Network Incorporated, Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
House Bill 4514, separating converting the Kalawit National High School, Representative Amatong.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4515, granting a franchise to Ignite Telecommunications Incorporated, Representative Uwaminal.
To the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
House Bill numbers 4516 to 4519, converting certain roads into national roads, Representative Bordado.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
Resolutions, House Solution 577, expressing warm felicitations and congratulations to Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Solution 578, direct the Committee on Human Rights to inquire the plight of women prisoners and detainees, Representatives De Jesus and Brosas.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Solution 579, direct the Committee on Youth and Sports to inquire into the alleged mismanagement and abuse of authority of the current leaders of the Philippine Olympic Committee, Representatives Belaro and Salo.
To the Committee on Rules.
Communications, letter dated October 25, 2016 of Antonio Jesus Arumasanta, General Manager, Puerto Princesa City Water District.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
Letters dated November 7, 17, and 22 of Roger Edinho, Deputy Director, Office of General Counsel, BSP.
To the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
Letter dated November 15 of Evelyn S. Marañon, State Auditor, COA.
To the Committee on Appropriations. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may I move for suspension of the session?
Session is suspended.
Arnie, di ba masagot?
Session resume. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with leave of the House, I move that we hold a privilege hour.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Alfred Vargas of the 5th District of Quezon City who wishes to avail of the privilege hour.
Representative Alfred Vargas is recognized to deliver his privilege speech.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. When I was young, I distinctly remember watching American movies and being amazed at how swiftly the 911 responded to all kinds of emergencies. The way they dealt with crisis was so impressive, so much so that I wanted to be the one answering the calls and playing hero to a little girl or boy's urgent plea for help. I also used to think how sad it was that we didn't have 911 in the Philippines. Today, thanks to the efforts of the present administration, we now have a dedicated number that serves as the National Emergency Telephone Number. In August of this year, the 911 emergency hotline was launched nationwide. I take this opportunity to stand before you today to bring to our collective attention the issue of emergency services in the country, particularly on the service of emergency calls. My interest on this particular issue, Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, was stirred when news reports revealed that the 911 emergency telephone hotline was reportedly flooded with prank calls on the first month that it was launched. In fact, there were more prank calls than legitimate calls, Mr. Speaker. Moreover, barely a month ago, there was a newspaper story about the laments of the City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council in Davao City regarding the number of prank calls that continue to flood their system. The numbers are indeed alarming and seriously need our attention, Mr. Speaker. While a number of calls involve requests for ambulance assistance, reports on vehicular accidents, petty harassment, civil disturbances, drag racing, drinking in public places, and drug pushing, among others, about 68% of the calls received were non-emergency in nature. Out of the 43,214 calls received from August to September, only 14,027 were considered valid. I find this a serious matter that must be brought to the open, Mr. Speaker and dear colleagues, especially during these times when news of disorder and unrest from all over the world plague the TV, radios, newspapers, and social media. It is during times like these that every Filipino needs to have a strong sense of security and safety. In other countries like the US, there is a law against what they call swatting. The term swatting is derived from the acronym SWAT, or Special Weapons and Tactics. This is a group of highly skilled and well-trained officers of the law, like policemen, who are assigned to often very dangerous and critical missions. Swatting is defined simply as an act of deceiving emergency service. It is a crime. There have been many documented cases of swatting in different countries. What is interesting to note, however, is that several cases, some even more complicated than others, have been committed by teenagers. They call themselves gamers. Swatting is generally synonymous to prank calls. And I want to bring this issue to the context of the Philippine experience, Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues. According to newspaper reports, on the first day alone of the activation of the 911 hotline in the Philippines, there were more drop calls and prank calls than actual emergency calls. According to the PNP, the hotline already received 2,475 phone calls barely even 7 hours after activation. But only 3% were legitimate calls. The rest were drop calls and prank calls. There were even calls asking for lotto numbers, would you believe? I can imagine how frustrating this must have been for the authorities. PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa has already appealed repeatedly to the public to stop making test calls because they clog the emergency line. Our PNP and all government agencies that launched 911 only had good intentions when they decided to activate the hotline. I believe it to be timely, as many of our people are beginning to become restless with news of crimes all around. The PNP should be lauded. The launch of 911 and its powerful back-end support is a major milestone. The present administration recognized the extreme importance of this service that barely a month after the new administration took over, this service was launched. But we have to address the headlines about the prank calls flooding the hotlines. Mr. Speaker, the 911 hotline is a noble idea, and the PNP deserves our praise for pushing for it. But we need to spend extra efforts, perhaps more resources, in educating our people about it and insisting that the Filipinos respect and honor the principle of the 911 hotline. The 3-digit telephone number has a very solid and respectable history. In the US, and I also believe in Canada, 911 has been designated as the universal emergency number. That when you dial it, within seconds, you will be led to emergency assistance. Its goal is to provide fast and easy access to help. There is a lot of literature about the benefits of having one central number to call for emergency situations. There is also a lot of data on why 911 was decided to be the best combination for a quick dial, and still a lot more information on how the 911 emergency hotline has helped many people in need and has saved many lives. The history of the 911 hotline in other countries is long and with serious legislative works before it arrived to its present status. Respected by the people, reliable, and trusted by the citizenry, and never to be messed around with. Indeed, it is a serious crime to play with a 911 emergency hotline. I have been impressed by how even the little children in the US understand the significance of this hotline and how these children honor this number so much and never play with it. The initial reaction of our people to the launch of the 911 hotline should not discourage anyone. Instead, it should motivate all of us to ensure that hotline to safety is protected and not abused. We cannot stop with just the launch of the 911 alone. We need to communicate. The LGUs need to transfer the information about this service system from PNP to the communities in the barangays and in the homes. We need to get the importance of 911 to the psyche of every Filipino. We also need to ensure that 911 reaches its maximum potential in bringing protection, safety, and security to the Filipino people. There are a lot of questions still, Mr. Speaker. That is probably why there has been a lot of prank calls in the first place. There is a tremendous amount of interest in wanting to know if this is the real deal. They want to find out if someone with an authoritative voice will really answer at the other end. Is 911 going to be a permanent form of service for the Filipinos? Can it really help the individual Pinoy in dire need? Is it for free? Does it work from outside of Luzon? How fast can help arrive after the initial call? Valid questions indeed, but they do not give Filipino callers the license to misuse this sacred number. Imagine if it were a life or death situation. A girl being raped, calling 911 for help but could not be attended to because the very same police team that could have helped her was deployed to another incident that was merely a prank. We cannot allow this to happen. So how do we protect the system, Mr. Speaker? Dear colleagues, we must help answer the questions of our constituents. We have to clearly communicate that 911 can only be utilized if we respect the number and give way to true emergency calls. I believe the best thing to do as a start is to spread the message that yes, no one can mess with the 911 hotline. And to do so will be a crime. Congress has to make it a crime because 911 is a holy number equivalent to our people's safety. Our PNP has already issued their commitment and their appeal that while PNP will absolutely do everything they can to respond to emergency call effectively, they will not tolerate people who will prevent them from fulfilling their duties successfully. The pranksters should be held accountable and will be dealt with seriously. Ladies and gentlemen, our safety and our security are both a right and a responsibility. They will always be a priority. They can never be compromised. Let us be responsible enough in ensuring that this right is never violated nor abused. Because being responsible about 911 is equivalent to protecting each and every Filipino. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, let us not forget, peace and order is not just the responsibility of the government, but of every Filipino. The system protecting our peace and order should be upheld with utmost respect, never taken for granted, never made fun of, and never dishonored. Thank you very much, and pleasant afternoon to all.
Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we move to acknowledge representative from the 2nd District of Pangasinan, Congressman Leopoldo Batawil, for his interpellation.
The Honorable Representative Batawil is recognized to make his...
Mr. Speaker, may I know if the gentleman from the 5th District of Quezon City is willing to entertain a few questions from me?
Gladly, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the initiative of the gentleman from the 5th District of Quezon City for bringing this matter to the attention of our colleagues and to the whole nation. I personally believe that indeed this is one important system that we should support, not only in our whole of Congress, but in our respective districts, and it should become our advocacy. No? It should become our advocacy because this means immediate response to emergency situation, not only in saving lives, but also in helping others save properties and prevent any untoward incident. May I know from the gentleman if he's aware of the former emergency number 117?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
This is the so-called Patrol 117, which had been established sometime in the early 2000, and thereafter it moved on to become a national advocacy for emergency. It's called the Patrol 117. May I know if you're aware of the participation of a of some private agencies that supported the Patrol 117 of the DILG, which was the main government agency which promoted this emergency number 117.
Yes, I believe you are correct, Honorable Congressman Leopoldo Batawi.
What,
And there have been a private entity participation there.
Yes, that's right. And I think you're aware that the central office of Patrol 117 at the time was in Quezon City. No? And this was supported very strongly by the PLDT, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Mr.?
Yes, yes, Mr. Speaker.
Your colleague?
Honorable.
Yes. And it appears that Patrol 117 served its purpose for a while, no? And may I know the reason why it is now 911? Is there any compelling reason?
This new administration launched it as a nationwide campaign for peace and order, and now it's supposed to be a universal number, and I believe that is the goal of this policy. It's just that this representation was really surprised that there were so many prank calls and so many people were not taking it seriously. I myself, during an emergency a few years ago, have dialed 117, and it was, I believe it, from that experience alone, I believe it's an effective number as well.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Actually, Patrol 117 also experienced the same problems cited by our dear colleague. We had a lot of prank calls. In fact, we were even receiving orders for pizza pie, and that was really very disheartening to note. No, emergency numbers should be taken seriously by all concerned, and the law which punishes anybody which violates the proper usage should be implemented thoroughly. And now it seems that 911 is also experiencing the same situation. So don't you think, dear colleague, there should be a stricter measure in ensuring that 911, emergency number 911 should, if it will be a permanent emergency number, which we will all adopt, should be strictly enforced on the matter of ensuring that it will not be joked around, no, by those prank callers.
Mr. Speaker, this representation agrees 100% with the Honorable Congressman from the 2nd District of Pangasinan. And that is correct, and I agree 100%, Your Honor.
Our dear colleague, Mr. Speaker, do you have any particular proposal to strengthen 911 so that it will serve its purpose?
Well, of course, we need to do an information campaign, and of course, we have to pass a really effective piece of legislation for this. And 911 in the U.S. and Canada did not flourish overnight. They had to undergo legislative work, legislative for work. And I would like to invite or get the advice, of course, of the gentleman from Pangasinan. Since this is not really my forte, the peace and order, maybe we can work together in filing a House bill exactly addressing this concern.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. There is a need for us to work together and gather the inputs of our colleagues and let it be considered by the proper committee so that we will be able to contribute to the strengthening of the system and the observance and respect by all concerned. Let me just cite to you that this is a very important system that we should really support. For example, something happened in anywhere in the country, Visayas or even Mindanao or in the farthest end of Luzon, and a witness, for example, saw this particular incident and there is no response yet from any agency. For example, pag may sunog, wala pang response ang fire station or mayroong ongoing the crime is in progress. Wala pa rin responde ang police, no? Or somebody needs to be brought to the hospital, no? Wala pa rin responde ang police or medical team, no? So anybody, anywhere in the country can call or text 911 and the central office, which is located in Metro Manila, should have the direct access to the provincial director or the regional director of the PNP wherever the incident happened, no? And the regional director and the provincial director should immediately notify the chief of police of that particular station. That is supposed to be the system, no? And in so short period of time, this has to be observed. And the police station should be able to respond within 3 to 5 minute period upon receipt of the emergency notice. So this system, emergency system, has to work effectively and closely with not only with the police, actually with the fire station department and the all LGUs, local government units, which maintain their respective operation center. Hindi po ba? Are you aware, dear colleague, Mr. Chair, that our local government units have their own respective emergency operation center?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, dear colleague.
Yes. Therefore, in closing, I would like to reiterate that this is indeed very important. But may I know if there is any particular assistance that this former Patrol 117, which now became 911, will not be changed again whenever there is a change of administration. Do we have that particular? Can we possibly have that assurance?
I think that will be very, very necessary in passing that law. That feature should be very, very necessary. As a matter of fact, we should institutionalize it so that no matter how many administrations come and go, it's still going to be 911. And I agree, Mr. Speaker, dear colleague.
Would you recommend, therefore, a law which will institutionalize 911 so that it will not be changed from time to time by any administration?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, dear colleague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much to our dear colleague from the 5th District of Quezon City.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Vargas to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection to the motion? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend privilege hour.
There's a motion to suspend privilege hour. Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker.
The minority leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I respectfully move for the following committee membership in behalf of the minority. We're nominating Honorable Cecilia Leonila Chavez as minority representative to the Committee on Veterans Affairs and Welfare. Nomination for Honorable Orestes Salon as additional minority member to the Special Committee on Vehicle Recovery and Economic Development, and Congressman Honorable Anisito Bertis as minority member to the Special Committee on West Philippine Sea. And we move to reconsider the election of Honorable Julieta Cortuna from the Committee on Indigenous Cultural Minorities and Indigenous Peoples. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there an objection to the motion of the Honorable Suarez? Chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we'd like to acknowledge some guests of our members. The guests of the Honorable Siti Jalia Turabin Hataman of Anak Mindanao Party List, Dr. Hazi Sulkifli Baharon, the Executive Director of the International Council of Islamic Finance Educators,
Please
and Mr.
rise.
Alim Siddiqui Gipal, the Executive Director and Regional Economic Zone Authority.
Welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we'd also like to recognize the guests of the Honorable Sara Jane Elago, representative of Kabataan Party List. We have Alitza Gamban, Giselle Ocampo, Ranica
Please
Meralpis,
rise to be recognized.
Alexander Aviñante Jr., and Audrey Hubo, who are all political science students from the De La Salle University Dasmariñas College of Liberal Arts and Communication.
Welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we move to suspend session.
Session is suspended. Session resume. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we move to resume the privilege hour.
Is there an objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, we move to recognize the Honorable Arnolfo Teves Jr. of the 3rd District of Negros Oriental for his privileged speech.
Thank you.
The Honorable Teves is recognized.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon and good afternoon, everybody. Again, I rise here today to bring an issue that has been a problem to operators of e-games. Ang gusto ko sana ipaabot dito, lalo na sa Committee on Games and Amusement, na sa tingin ko dapat imbestigahan ang PhilWeb Corporation dahil hino-hostage nila yung pera ng operator, yung BCF na tinatawag namin na nakadeposit sa kanila. Sabi kasi nila nung una, they will release the BCF as soon as PAGCOR approves. But actually that money is not deposited with PAGCOR but with the PhilWeb account. Now, kahit pala nag-approve na yung PAGCOR, hindi pa nila nire-release dahil ipaprocess pa daw. But that's not even the main problem. The main problem na gusto ko pa imbestigahan is bakit ginagawa nilang prerequisite ang quit claim bago mo makuha yung pera mo. Nakalagay doon sa quit claim na kailangan mo pirmahan na natanggap mo na yung pera kahit hindi pa. What am I trying to drive at? These big corporations are forcing small businessmen na pumirma ng sinungaling. Eh wala namang laban yung maliliit na negosyante dahil yung pera nila nandun. I think dapat talaga itong inimbestigan at dapat itong mabago dahil hindi talaga pwede na papirmahin mo ng sinungaling yung isang tao. At isa pa, wala silang laban dahil kahit hindi nila ibigay yung pera, pumirma ka na ng quit claim, lugi ka na. And they even told me na wala daw nagreklamo ibang operator. So I told them, syempre, wala naman silang laban sa inyo. Pero ako, magrereklamo talaga ako in behalf of the other operators because I think it's kung sa Bisaya, yan, panglupig. I don't know what's the correct term in English and in Tagalog. Oh, pero mali. So sana lang manawagan ako sa ating Committee on Games and Amusement na paimbestigahan natin yung PhilWeb Corporation dun sa pag-hostage nila sa mga BCF ng kanilang mga previous operators. That's all for now, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the privileged speech of the Honorable Teves to the Rules Committee for its appropriate action.
There's a motion to move to the appropriate committee the speech of the gentleman. Any objection? Chair is none. Motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Jose Atienza Jr. of Buhay Party List who wishes to avail of privilege hour.
Representative Jose Atienza of Buhay Party List is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Madam Majority Floor Leader. This gives us an opportunity to bring to the national attention something which is very positive for all of us. But this is a matter of a personal and collective and national interest. Mr. Speaker, President Duterte made a dramatic and an announcement that we can consider unprecedented when he said, upon arrival from Peru, the APEC meeting, he said he was directing the dismantling of fish pens in Laguna Lake. Ako po'y natutuwa sapagkat ito isang bagay na ipinaglaban ko noon, ipinaglalaban ko ngayon, at ipaglalaban ko sa darating na panahon ng ating yaman dagat, yamang tubig, ay pakinabangan ng mamamayan at ng ating ekonomiya. For the information of our colleagues, Laguna Lake is the biggest freshwater lake in Asia, the biggest in the Philippines and the biggest in Asia. 99,000 hectares of open waters, where aquatic life has always flourished, where fisher folks from Rizal, Laguna, even Metro Manila were given a livelihood opportunity due to the abundance of aquatic life in the lake. Diyan po nagmumula pati na yung ating mga national pride na balut kung tawagin natin sapagkat diyan nabubuhay ang mga itik na nangingitlog na ginagawang balut. Dahil po sagana sa pagkain ng itik yung lawa na yan. Subalit sa pagdaan ng panahon ay ito po'y na-monopolize ng mga mayayaman na nagtayo ng kani-kanilang fish pens diyan sa Laguna Lake. Yung fish pen can range from 500 hectares to 5,000 hectares na ngayon ay bumubuo na halos sa mahigit kalahati ng lawa na yan. So the 99,000 hectares are no longer serving the purpose of common good. And we have been calling the attention of the government on this matter. In the past administration, we have not succeeded in any manner. Not even one iota of a reaction. The problem persisted and the waters of Laguna Lake continue to deteriorate. Ito pong bagay na ito nagbibigay ng malaking problema sa mga mangingisda ng Laguna, Rizal at mga karatig probinsya. Ito pong kapabayaang ito ay nagdudulot na problema sa ating mga tiga Metro Manila. Ang baha sa Metro Manila ay nagmumula at nag-uugat kadalasan sa hindi pagdaloy ng tubig na nagmumula po sa Laguna Lake. When the fish pens are allowed to really proliferate, the waters are blocked and rainwaters are not allowed to flow freely. Laguna Lake is a gift of nature. Laguna Lake is a gift of God to all of us. Pwede pong ito'y nagagamit sa kagalingan ng ating ekonomiya. Nagbibigay ng pagkain sa mga mangingisda at nagbibigay ng pagkain sa lahat ng mamamayan dito po sa ating kapuluan. Subalit, dito po sa kapabayang ito na nagdaan sa maraming dekada, nagmula ng martial law, hindi na po tumigil ang pananatili at paglaki ng mga fish pens dyan. You may not believe it, there is one company there that maintains 5,000 hectares of our public waters. Paano po nangyayari ang ganyan? Paano po pinabayaan ng ganyan? Nagtayo pa tayo ng authority, kung tawagin ay Laguna Bay Authority, Laguna Lake Authority, na wala po namang ginagawa upang bigyan ng proteksyon ang interes ng lahat, lalo na ng mga mahihirap na mangingisda. So, we are definitely supporting the directive of the President. To quote him, he said, if by middle December the fish pens are still there, he will hold everybody responsible, especially the departments in charge of our aquatic wealth. Andiyan po ang Department of Agriculture, andiyan po ang Department of Environment, andiyan po ang Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, andiyan po ang Philippine Fisheries Development Authority, andiyan po silang lahat. Alam ko, pananagutin po ng ating Pangulo. At ang kasunod na warning niya at pagpapaalala niya ay huwag silang maglaro-laro sapagkat alam niya ang punot dulo ng lahat ng ito. Ako'y natutuwa sapagkat marahil pagdating ng ating Pangulo, nakita niya sa aeroplano, wala na tayong Laguna de Bay. At doon niya naalala, pag-landing niya dito sa ating airport, doon niya binanggit. Hindi na siya papayag na ang ating mga public waters ay manatiling monopolized ng mga malalakas, mayayaman, makapangyarihan, at merong malaking puhunan. At merong pambayad sa kinauukulan. Sapagkat para magtayo kayo ng fish pond ngayon, ang babayaran na lang ninyo ay yung gobyerno. Hindi na kayo bibili ng lupa, hindi na kayo mamumuhunan, magbabakod na lang kayo. Kung gusto niyo sa Laguna de Bay, kung gusto niyo sa Manila Bay, kung gusto niyo, pati ang Taal Lake, Mr. Speaker, Taal Lake, which is a protected landscape area. It is not only a protected area, but a protected landscape. Hindi dapat nagkakaroon dyan ng anuman sagabal sa kagandahan ng ating kalikasan sa Tagaytay at Laguna at Taal Lake. Subalit ngayon, napupuno na yan ng fish pen na hindi ko maintindihan sapagkat ito po'y nangyayari sa ilalim ng tungkil ng ilong ng ating mga provincial, municipal, city authorities, and of course, the government entrusted with the care and protection of our public waters. We are very elated. We are very happy that we have a president now, the only president that I know, which has confronted the issue squarely. You better remove these fish pens or I will call the military. Can you imagine that? He will call the military to remove these fish pens by force. Yan po'y tamang pag-iisip na hinihintay natin sa ating pamunuan. Para po sa kaalaman ng ating mga miyembro, ang Laguna de Bay is just the monument, the face of the problem. But the problem is all over the islands. We who are blessed with more than 200 lakes all over the country, most of these are in Mindanao. 20 of them are in Region 10. 19 of them are in the ARMM area. Region 11 has 14 of them. Region 12 has 15 lakes. Region 13 has 13 lakes. And spread all over the islands are bodies of water that should be giving us not only livelihood, but food for our tables. Ito na po ang pagkakataon. Maganda pong suportahan natin. And I am committed to support the President on this issue. As we have said repeatedly, when the President does something good for the nation, he can rely on Buhay Party List behind him. When he is wrong, we will not hesitate to call his attention on a wrong decision. But this particular decision, Mr. Speaker, will liberate our public waters of all of this encroachment. encroachment which are illegally done because of corrupting practices. Sa ngayon, ang sinasabi po ng Laguna Lake Authority ay babahagya lang daw naman ang abuso. I got their latest figures. According to their records, there are only 12,000 hectares occupied by fish pens. Only 12,000 out of 99,000. Mr. Speaker, they're practically pulling the wool before the eyes of the President. Kaya tinatawagan po natin ng pansin ang ating Pangulo, niloloko kayo ng Laguna Lake Development Authority. Hindi po 12,000 lang ang fish pens dyan. Kung titignan po niya yan, at ito po naman ay ginawa na namin ilang ulit, sumakay kayo sa isang helicopter, makikita nyo yung tubig ng lawa, halos wala na sapagkat bordado na ng fish pen ang Laguna de Bay. This is a major catastrophe for our God-given resources which should be benefiting the Filipinos and not only the rich and even foreigners who are financing them. Many of these fish pens are even foreign-owned, Mr. Speaker. So ito po hindi dapat nangyayari. Wala po akong napuntahang bansa na pinabayaan ng kanilang katubigan katulad ng pagpapabaya na ginawa at pinabayaan ng mga administrasyon. Itong nakaraang 6 na administrasyon, wala pong ginawa. Not even one effort to even comply with not only with our man-made laws but with the natural law of providing benefits for the people in our environmental wealth. Mayaman ang ating bansa, mayaman ang kalikasan. Subalit, hindi po aangat kailanman ang pamumuhay natin kung ang abuso ng ilan ang mananaig at maiiwan pa rin ang korupsyon sa ating sistema. Kaya ang aming panawagan, ituloy po niya, Mr. President, and complete your threat for everyone to follow. Pag kayo ay nagpumilit, I will pounce on you. Yun po ang kanyang salita. I will pounce on you. Meaning, pupukpukin ko kayo. Ay yan po ay aming babantayan at yan ay aming hihintayin. Sapagkat alam namin na marami sa ating gobyerno ngayon ay hindi naniniwala sa pamumuno ni numan. Naniniwala sila sa kapangyarihan ng salapi na patuloy na dumadaloy sa kanilang mga tanggapan. We believe that the President is sincere and we will support him all the way as we will continue to call his attention on matters which pertain to the clearing of our water bodies. We have more than 212 lakes, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker. We have more than 700 rivers in the country. Yung mga tiga-Bulacan na mga miyembro ng Kongreso, tingnan nyo ang kalagayan ng Bulacan River. Puno na rin po ng fish pen, lalo na yung palabas na sa Manila Bay. Tingnan yung mga tiga-Pampanga, tingnan po ninyo ang kalagayan ng Pampanga River. Puno na rin po ng fish pen yan na bumabara ng tubig, kaya binabaha kayo sa Central Luzon. Ang dulot po ng abusong ito ay hindi natin masusukatan sapagkat buhay ang naisasakripisyo kadalasan dahil po sa kapabayaan. So collectively, the national government, local, provincial, and local governments, the Congress of the Philippines, both lower and upper houses, should be one in our efforts. Liberate the nation of all of these abuses on our natural wealth, and we will benefit. Tayo po ang aani ng biyaya ng ating kalikasan. At hindi lang para sa atin ngayon, kundi para sa darating na Pilipino, maaalala nila na once upon a time, there was a Congress of the Philippines who supported the efforts of the national leadership so that we may free our water bodies of all of these abuses. Dahil hindi po mangyayari ito, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, hindi po mangyayari ito kung hindi nabibigyan ng corrupting money ang mga namamahala. Kaya ito po'y dugtong-dugtong at ako'y natutuwa sa mga kataga ng ating Pangulo. If you don't believe what I'm saying, you better be ready as I will pounce on you. Hihintayin ko po yung pounce na yun. Talagay ko po'y matindi-tindi ang mangyayari kung hindi po aaksyon ang mga kinauukulan. All lakes, all rivers, and all water bodies, these are all public waters. Ang dapat dyan nangingisda ay ang pangkaraniwang Pilipino. Ang dapat nakikinabang dyan ay ang mga mangingisda. Isipin niyo, ang mangingisda ngayon, pinakamahirap na sektor sa ating bansa. Pinakamahirap na Pilipino na mumula sa ating hanay ng mangingisda. Hindi po ba yan ang malaking kababalaghan? Ang ating kapuluan ay merong katubigan na maaaring magbigay ng laman dagat para sa buong mundo. According to the studies of the World Food Organization, the Philippine waters can feed the whole world with aquatic food if only the Philippine government would act on it and manage it well. Ito na ang hinihintay natin. Hindi na natin pwedeng pabayaan to. Tulungan natin ang ating Pangulo sapagkat hindi niya makakayanan ang mga nambobola, nanloloko at nagdadaya sa ating pamamahala. To even say that Laguna Lake is only occupied in 12 to 15% of the area is one big lie. If anybody can prove me wrong on this matter, I'm willing to resign my post as a member of Congress. But anybody who questions what I am trying to deliver now, Laguna Lake has about 50 to 60% of its waters already occupied by fish pens. Huwag niyong lokohin ang ating Pangulo, huwag niyong lokohin ang ating bansa, sapagkat meron pa rin mga Pilipino na handang lumaban para sa kapakanan ng bayan. Maraming salamat po sa pagkakataon ito.
Mr. Speaker,
Majority Leader.
Would the kind gentleman of Buhay Party List yield to an interpellation?
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, you may proceed to interpellate the gentleman.
Gladly, coming from a gentleman who's also concerned with the plight of the poor, I would gladly clarify anything that I have said and entertain any questions coming from him.
You may proceed, Honorable Villaring.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Your Honor. As what you've said, Your Honor, the President has already said that he will dismantle all the fish pens and that he will call on the military to do it. Do you think that this issue is a law enforcement issue, and if it's a law enforcement issue, it should not be the military who will be called to do this duty?
Mr. Speaker, as one who has been involved in the efforts to dismantle these very well-funded and well-founded illegal activities, siguro si Pangulong Duterte, out of frustration, nasabi na niya, kung hindi nyo aalisin yan, kayong mga civilian governments, itatawagin ko na militar. Patawagin ko na Philippine Navy. At gibain namin lahat yan sa pamamagitan ng motorized vehicles and motorized bangkas and the military's might. I could understand him. Out of frustration, he may not hesitate to call in the military.
So if he calls on the military, Your Honor, do you think that it would be going beyond what is mandated under the laws, that you call in the military only in cases if there's an invasion, as commander, when you invoke the commander-in-chief powers, it is only during times of very extreme emergencies? And do you consider this Laguna Lake falling within that category of a very extreme emergency of national import?
We support the view of the gentleman that there should be very, very severe and extreme cases where the military should intervene in purely civilian matters. Clearing a lake should not involve the military. But if the provincial governments in Rizal and Laguna do not react if the Laguna Lake Development Authority does not move, alam po niyo, parang nahirati na itong mga ito eh. Palagay ko, meron na silang mga physical cramps and mental blocks. Hindi na po nakikinig ito sapagkat noong pa man, ako'y isang bata pa lang, binata, ako'y nakikipaglaban na ako para sa kalikasan itong Laguna de Bay, especially because we used to swim in that lake. We used to sail our little boats in Laguna Lake. We used to water ski in Laguna Lake. Ang ganda po niyang ng lawang yan. Pero through the decades, more than 6 decades, magmula nung binuo po yung Laguna Lake Development Authority, doon po nagpatuloy ang problema. Kaya, palagay ko, extreme na ito. Kaya
So, sa
nasabi
palagay
ng
niyo-
Pangulo, militar na ang tatawagin ko rito. Because this is a national economic sabotage. That lake could be the engine of development for our nation. That lake can provide the national economic miracle that we've been seeking. But if nothing is done, and this is occupied by fish pens alone, then the President, to my mind, and I would support him even in his views, that he will call in the military to dismantle all of these fish pens.
But in bringing in the military, Your Honor, there could be consequences. There could be legal issues and challenges that might be raised. And of course, being in a situation that we are not in a martial law, or that even if there's a declaration, there are certain procedural requirements that are needed, and even that power of being a commander-in-chief should always be used sparingly, and if ever, there should also be an oversight from Congress. Are you saying now that these powers or this exercise by the President to call in the military specifically for the purpose of dismantling the illegal fish pens in Laguna de Bay would still fall under those masasabi natin na hayaan na lang natin si Pangulo na gagamitin yung ganong kapangyarihan? Would that also be a precedent, no, on all other emergencies for which the President alone can say that this is of extreme emergencies? Ang tinutumbok ko po dito ay baka magiging precedent ito of using that commander-in-chief powers, no, in all other situations that could be deemed as an extreme emergency by the President alone himself.
Mr. Speaker, I join the gentleman in his apprehension as one who is also very sensitive. I am sensitive to any military intervention. Dumaan po tayo sa batas militar at ipinangako natin sa ating sarili, never again. Absolute power produce absolute corruption. Kaya hindi po natin pwedeng katigan muli ang anumang militarization ng ating bansa. Subalit, dito sa problemang ito, hindi pa naman pinag-uusapan ang pag-aalis ng anumang karapatang pantao, paglabag sa ating mga karapatan bilang malayang mamamayan, kundi ang pinag-uusapan dito ay yung hindi magawa ng civilian government. Alisin ang illegal. Palagay ko, abnormal situations, because this is an abnormal situation, require sometimes abnormal solutions. Kaya sinasabi ng ating Pangulo, militar na tatawagin ko, baka tatawag siya ng 2 vapor. Lalagyan niya ng kadena at baka hihilahin niya para lahat ng fish pen doon tanggal. Otherwise, yung sinasabi ng Laguna Lake Authority, narinig ko po yung announcement nila ngayon, nag-uumpisa na raw sila na magtanggal at magbaklas. Mahigit 100 square meters na raw ang natatanggal nila. Kung bibilangin po ninyo, ang 62,000 hectares at 100 square meters ang tinatanggal nila araw-araw, tapos na po yung term ni Pangulong Duterte. Wala na po siguro tayong lahat dito sa Kongreso patuloy pa rin yung kanilang makupad at dahan-dahang pagtupad sa batas. This is a continuing violation and a gross violation of our laws. So palagay ko nagmumula yun doon. I will join the gentleman whenever we notice that the President is unduly calling in the military for a purely civilian function. But at this point in time, as one who is also equally frustrated, I've been frustrated even when I was Secretary of the Environment, hindi ko po nagawa. Nalinisin yan, lawang yan. Alam niyo kung bakit? Ang kumakalaban sa akin ay mga sangay din ng gobyerno. They were the ones who were speaking out against the efforts to clear it of all of these structures. Sabi nila, mawawalan na raw ng pagkain ang Metro Manila pag inalis yung mga fish pen na yan. Ba't mangyayari yung mawala ang isda? Lalo nga po magiging malusog ang isda eh. Ngayon yung mga isdang galing po dyan sa mga baklad dyan, huwag na po kayong kakain yan. Yan po ang advice namin sa inyo. Ang kinakain na po niyan, burak sa ilalim ng tubig, kasama na po ang mga poisonous substances na kinakaladkad ng mga tauhan nila ron. Now, another factor that the way I am agreeing that in the frustration of the President, he may call in the military. Because the normal forces of local governments may not be sufficient to fight the well-entrenched security guards guarding these fish pens. Alam po ba nyo nagpapatrolya dyan? Hindi po naman mga pulis eh. Mga private security guard. Pag may mangingisdang pumasok po sa lugar ng kanilang area, babarilin ng mga security guard. Marami na po nasawi dyan sa ganung paraan. So who will implement and enforce the law? That's why I mentioned this may be an abnormal situation where there is total failure of enforcement of laws. This may be the time wherein the President will be justified to call in the military to enforce the law and not to enforce martial rule, but rather to put order in an otherwise anarchic situation. Ang nananaig po dyan talagang yung mga nakapwestong may-ari ng fish pen. Wala pong laban ang mangingisda natin. Wala pong laban yung pulis ng mayor o pulis ng governor kung sila papasok dyan at tatanggi po ang mga security forces.
Ako po yung nakikiisa, no, Your Honor, dun sa inyong analysis na itong problema na ito ay bunsod ng napakahabang panahon ng papabaya dito sa ating Laguna Lake. Pero hindi ba na nakikita natin na ang pinag-ugatan nito ay mismo yung ating konsepto kung paano gamitin yung lawa. Dahil what we have now is a Laguna Lake Development Authority. And being a development authority, its role is basically to extract the resources within the bay, within Laguna de Bay. So meaning, I think the problem stems from our conception, from our framework, regulatory framework of Laguna Lake. So maybe the point that I would raise here is, of course, you have this drastic, immediate solution of militarizing the bay. But if we don't change the framework of how we treat Laguna de Bay from just purely an extractive resource generating activity, unless we change it, we will not solve the problems that you mentioned. So, this representation, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, is proposing that maybe from this extractive framework, regulatory framework, perhaps we could now shift to a conservation framework for the Laguna de Bay and will not allow the massive extraction of the limited resource of Laguna Bay. And I think that one should be the focus of our interventions, especially in Congress, that we need to review and revisit the law. Now, if the solution, immediate solution, is to bring in the military, but we still won't change the regulatory framework of Laguna Lake, then I believe that that solution will just be temporary, Your Honor.
Mr. Speaker, alam nyo, ang sitwasyon ngayon ay buhol-buhol na patong-patong na. Yung Laguna Lake Development Authority, if I remember correctly, in the 1960s, when this was organized by law, and I was there in the Senate when it was being passed, and I was clapping my hands. I remember Senator Ilarde, if anybody remembers Senator Ilarde, and he was very proud of that piece of legislation. Isa na po kaming nagsaya sapagkat nabigyan ng local authority ang pangangalaga ng napakalaking lawa. Pero ano po nangyari? Magmula nung binuo yung Laguna Lake Development Authority and up to the present, up to today, up to this hour, hindi po ginagawa yung trabaho nila Sila nga nagiging problema Sila naglilisensya. Sila ang nagpapabaya. Alam ba ninyo ang Laguna Lake Development Authority walang budget? Patuloy ko pong tinatawagan niya sa nakaraang budget deliberation. Bakit hindi binibigyan ng budget yan? Dahil daw yung kanilang sweldo ay galing sa mga koleksyon, sa mga lisensya. Kaya ang nangyayari, mas maraming violations, mas malaki kinikita nila. Baka may bonus pa sila. Kaya wala pong pumupuna. So tama po ang ating kagalang-galang na Congressman Villarin. There is a need to revisit the law. I will join him in any effort on that matter as we are already prepared also to look into the law creating the Laguna Lake Development Authority. We feel if the President commits the mistake of asking me, as he will not ask me, he will probably ask the majority members of Congress. But if he does ask me, what do you suggest, Congressman? My first move will be to abolish the Laguna Lake Development Authority and put in place an enforcement, a maintenance department, yung mangangalaga ng katubigan, para tayong lahat ay makinabang na muli sa Laguna Dibay. Because, as I mentioned, Laguna Dibay is just the face of the problem. Huwag tayong, lumingin po tayo sa Manila Bay. Ang Manila Bay is one big sewage plant, of sewage area. Ang mga fish pen dyan magmula sa Cavite, malapit na po sa Parañaque, Las Piñas. Wala pong pumupuna. Kaya sabi po siguro ng Pangulo, kailangan ko na rito muscle. Kaya niya naisip yung militar. But don't get me wrong, and I would like to stress my point in my consonance with my agreement with the observations of the gentleman that we should be very, very careful in allowing the military to take on purely civilian functions. With that reminder, we should all be one in observing how this thing goes. As the important thing is to clear Laguna Dibay, clear Manila Bay, clear Taal Lake, and the 200 other lakes in the nation.
I'm glad that Your Honor brought the matter of abolishing the LLDA because this representation has already filed a bill seeking the creation of the Laguna Lake Conservation Authority. Because even the local stakeholders also see this as a big problem, and there's a need to have a paradigm shift. But again, as I've said, in the short term, my advice is let's not be too drastic by saying that this is already a very extreme and emergency for which our local government units, even members of Congress who represents the immediate stakeholders in Laguna de Bay will not be consulted on any major actions or intervention that would, again, I believe, could lead to some violations of the rights of individuals and of communities in Laguna de Bay, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Again, Mr. Speaker, we would like to express our appreciation for the gentleman's questions and interpellations and his own point of view addressing the problem. I'm sure it enriches the discussion and adds more knowledge and information to the topic that we brought to the floor today, because we want all our members to be interested in protecting our water bodies. Ang yaman ng bansa natin ay nakaugat sa yaman ng ating katubigan. We have an abundance of this, we have an abundance of drinking water in fact, but we are wasting it away rather than gaining from it. Kaya kailangan po ng aksyon ng Kongreso rito, and I will join the gentleman in his efforts to also help solve or address a problem for a final solution. But unless the fish pens are removed, the face of government will always be stuck on the wall. Dahil walang masasabi ang gobyernong hindi marunong magpatupad ng batas. Kaya ako po naman ay hanga kay Pangulong Duterte sa kanyang mga binanggit. I like the phrase, I will pounce on you. Ibig sabihin po nun, humanda kayo, pupukpukin ko kayo. Matutuwa po ako, papalakpak ako pag ginawa po niyo yan sa mga binanggit kong nagkukulang ng mga ensya.
Thank you for providing me the opportunity, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, for the interpellation of the good gentleman from Buhay Party List. So I have no more questions, Your Honor. Again, my sincere thanks.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Aurelio Dong Gonzalez of the 3rd District of Pampanga for his interpellation. So move, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You may
Senior Deputy Minority, pwede mo bang magtanong ng konti sa ating Senior Minority Leader?
By all means, Mr. Speaker. Again, I called on representatives coming from Bulacan, Pampanga, to name a few of the areas which are suffering from flood waters, suffering from polluted waters, and as a gentleman leader of Pampanga, I'd be very happy to answer his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, during your time, you mentioned Senator Ilarde. What year is that, Mr. Speaker?
I beg your pardon, Mr. Speaker.
Anong taon po naging senador si Senator Ilarde?
At that time, it was about probably 1964, 65, mid-60s.
Okay. 1964, 2 taon pa lang ako, Mr. Speaker. Tanong ko lang po, ilan po yung weed ng ating Manila Bay, ilan yung weed ng Pampanga River, ilan itong area ng Laguna Lake Development Authority. Noong panahon na yun po, marami bang obstruction na mga illegal squatters, mga fish pens during your time?
Noong panahon po yun, aking naaalala ay malinaw ang tubig ng Laguna Bay. Napakalinaw ng tubig ng Manila Bay. Ang Manila Bay nung araw ay talagang sentro ng kabiasnan, komersyo, ekonomiya. Diyan po'y nakakahuli pa kami ng isda at nabubuhay dyan ng shellfish. Ang talaba sa Manila Bay, pinakamasarap sa buong Pilipinas. Ngayon, hindi na po nating kainin lahat yung mga yan kung magmumula sa Manila Bay sa kapabayaan ng mga nakaraang pamamahala.
Mr. Speaker, alam niyo po, kaya tinanong ko lang po yun. Kasi ngayon, mag-start ka po sa Region 1, going to Region 3. Region 3, I'm saying the Pampanga River. If you're going to inspect Pampanga River now, ang pagkaalam ko dyan, ang weed ng Pampanga River, for all I know, at sa mga matatanda sa akin, tinatanong ko po yan, 200 to 250 meters width. Ngayon po, siguro mga 2 years ago or 3 years ago, bilang kinatawan ng Tercera Distrito ng lalawigan ng Pampanga, in-inspection ko po uli yan. Alam niyo po kung ilan ang width ngayon? Tama po kayo. 50 meters width. Minsan 30 meters. So it's irregular width. Ngayon, itong sinasabi ko pong ito, napakakitid na po nito. Tama po yung sinasabi nyo. Umahanap po tayo ng solusyon kung paano natin mapapaalis, kung paano natin mariresolve itong problema. Pag umulan, bumabaha na po sa ating mga lugar. Tapos, ang sinisisi kaagad, itong mga nanunungkulan ng gobyerno. So, Mr. Speaker, paano kaya nating mariresolve itong mga illegal free span, illegal squatting? Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, kaya nga panawagan ko kay Pangulo, huwag mong titigan masyado ang Laguna de Bay lang. Sapagkat andyan po lahat yung ating katubigan, mahigit 200 ang ating mga lakes, mahigit 700 ang ating ilog. Ay marami po dyan, gaya po ng sinabi ng ating kongresista sa Pampanga, ay kumikitid na at nagiging dahilan na sa paglala ng problema natin sa baha. Ting makikita ko po yung baha sa Pampanga, sa Bulacan, Metro Manila. Makikita ko po yung Pasig River. At makikita ko po ang Laguna de Bay. Talaga po hindi ko maiwasan sabihin sa sarili ko, abay, kailan pa tayo gigising? Itong ating yaman na ito, hindi natin talaga pinakikinabangan ngayon. Bagkus nagiging problema. Yung mga ilog natin, mga freshwater lakes natin, yan po nagmumula ang lahat ng ating tubig na iniinom. Nagmumula po yan sa dam, sa bundok, dumadaloy sa lawa, tumatakbo sa ilog, na kung yan ay ating pangangalagaan, Mr. Speaker, hindi po mananalo sa atin yung mga freshwater, mineral water supplier ng mundo. We can supply all the freshwater requirements of Asia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and all of them. Kung yan po'y aasikasuhin lang ng gobyerno. Pero kung hindi natin lilinisin ng tubig, ay ba'y malalaso po iinom dyan. But just to give everyone an idea, we have an oversupply of fresh water. Rainwater, even typhoons and low-pressure areas may be sometimes destructive. But these are blessings of nature that pours on all of us. If the Middle East has oil reserves, the Philippines has an abundance of fresh water. Yung gasolina ngayon, mas mura pa kasi sa isang bote ng tubig. Pag bumili tayo ng tubig ngayon, minsan 50 pesos. Lalo na yung imported. Pero, ang gasolina, merong 27, merong 30 pesos. Mas mahal ngayon ang tubig kaysa gasolina. So you can imagine, if we develop our water resources by cleaning and clearing all the water bodies, we will not worry about our economic problems affecting us out of the deterioration of the peso, out of the peace and order conditions, and other elements that are giving us problems now. Dahil sobra-sobra po ang ating supply ng tubig na dapat ay iniinom at hindi inaksaya ng kapabayaan.
Salamat, Mr. Speaker. Alam ko po, Congressman Atienza, during your time, you're one of the cabinet member of the Arroyo administration of Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Ito mo bang problema na to nandito na nung kayo ang kalihim ng DNR, Mr. Speaker?
Ando na po, sapagkat inaksyonan namin to At kami unti-unting nagtatagumpay hanggang gumalaw at kumilos ang mga kinauukulan. Hinihingi nga nila yung pwesto ko Kung pwede raw, paalisin ako Buti na lang, ang Pangulong Arroyo ay naniniwala sa aking intensyon at naniniwala sa aking integridad at sinuportahan ako sa mga isyong yan. Subalit, hindi po nagtagumpay. Hindi po nakumpleto. Nalinis namin ang malaking bahagi ng Manila Bay. Nalinis namin ang maliit na bahagi ng Laguna de Bay. Sinabi kong maliit dahil nakahalang yung Laguna Lake Development Authority dyan. Sila ang defender ng illegalities dyan. In fact, nagtatalo kami sa Malacanang. Buti na lang, kinakampihan ako ng Pangulong Arroyo. Sabi nga niya, huwag ka magsumbong sa akin. Kay Secretary Atienza ka magsabi na sinasabi mong kabalbalan.
Naniniwala po ako, Mr. Speaker. Kasi one time, during those days, na nasa palasyo ako, sinasabi niya, one of the brilliant secretary is Secretary Atienza of DNR. If he can continue his program, he can solve the problem all over our country. Totoo po yung sinasabi nyo, naniniwala ako. Sana po, yung mga programa nyo na naiwanan during your time na pwedeng ipagpatuloy, kailangan naman ipagpatuloy. Not only this major channel, but also this tributary channel. You know, I said tributary channel because not only the urban area, but also the rural areas. Tignan po natin yung mga daloy na mga tubig. Sa bawat probinsya natin, halos barado na ho yan. Kumbaga sa tao, Mr. Speaker, pag inatake ka, sabi niya, inatake siya. Ba't inatake? Kasi bumaray yung principal na ugat sa ulo. Di ba ano? Meron tayong principal na ugat, meron tayong yung ugat na sinasabi sa, hindi ako doktor. Pero pag pumutok yung principal na ugat, mamamatay yung tao. Ibig sabihin, pag yung major channel, pumutok at sinara, lalabas yung tubig, pagkakaroon tayo ng flooding. Kaya hindi lang po dapat yung mga major channel, isama po natin yung mga small tributaries. So, Mr. Speaker, yun po ang pwede kong masabi sa ating dating kalihim at ngayon sa ating kasama dito sa Kamara. Sana po ipagpatuloy. Kung ano po yung magandang programa, kasi yung Pampanga, halos malapit na lang po yan sa Metro Manila. Pag bumaha yung Metro Manila, siguradong babaha, magbabackflow po yung tubig sa amin sa probinsya. So on that note, Mr. Speaker, nagpapasalamat po ako sa Senior Deputy Minority Leader na si Congressman Atchina. Salamat po, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, we would like to express full appreciation and commendation to the interest of Congressman Gonzales on the topic which we have brought forth this afternoon. Kung lahat po tayo ay magkakaroon lang ng interes dito sa ating problema ng kalikasan ngayon, ay palagay ko ay makatutulong tayo ng malaki. We thank him for his insight. We thank him for his questions. And I must admit, if there is one frustration in my 44 years of public service, Mr. Speaker, my frustration is that as Secretary of Environment, hindi ko po nagawa yung gagawin ni Pangulong Digong na aalisin niya lahat ito sa isang iglap. Because if I could only have done that, I would consider myself as having contributed already a great portion of our natural wealth. Kaya inaamin ko po, hindi natin nagawa ang lahat ng gusto natin gawin. Pero ngayon, meron tayong Pangulo na gumagawa ng tama, tulungan natin. Sapagkat kung hindi natin tutulungan, hindi rin papansinin ng mga gobernador, hindi papansinin ng mga mayors, aasahan ko po yung sinabi niya, I will pounce on you. Yung po inaasahan ko sa ating Pangulo. Maraming salamat sa pagkakataong ito. We thank the body for listening to our message this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Atienza, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Atienza to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the interpellations as well to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we terminate privilege hour. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection? Chair hears none, motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the guests of the Honorable Jose Antonio Kuya Jonathan C. Alvarado.
Please
and
rise.
Of the 1st District of Bulacan, as well as the Honorable Edward Vera Perez Maceda of the 4th District of Manila, and Dr. Ramon Ricardo Roque, the Deputy Secretary General. They have in plenary today their guests, Dr. Enrico Torres and his 7 doctoral students from the University of Santo Tomas Graduate School.
Please rise to be recognized. Welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we call the roll of members.
The Secretary is directed to call the roll of members.
Roll call of members, honorable representatives. Abad, Abaya, Abayon, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg, Acharon, Akop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agaraw, Agabaw, Aglipay Villar, Albano, Alcala, Alejano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte Nagiat, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Mercedes, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Andaya, Angara Castillo, Antonino, Antonio, Aragones, Arbizon, Arcillas, Arenas, Atienza, Aumentado, Bagaw, Bagaching, Bagilat, Banal, Barbers, Barsaga, Batawil, Batocabe, Bautista Bandigan, Belaro, Belmonte, Feliciano, Belmonte Jose Christopher, Belmonte Ricardo, Benitez, Bernos, Bertiz, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bulilia, Bundok, Burdado, Bravo Anthony, Bravo Maravida, Brosas, Bulot Bigtang, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto Rubiano, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cari, Casilaw, Castelo, Casa Franz, Casa Fredenil, Catamco, Cayetano, Celeste, Serapica, Cerilles, Chavez, Chupeco, Cuanco, Culiantes, Cortés, Cortuna, Cosalan, Crisólogo, Cuba, Cuaresma, Cueva, Dalipe, Dalog, Dasa, De Jesus, De Venecia, De Vera, Defensor, Del Mar, Del Rosario, de los Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duwabit, Durano, Di, Ilago, Enverga, Rize, Ergel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Eusebio, Evardone, Fariñas, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Ferriol, Floirendo, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Pentebelia, Garbin, Garcia Gwendolyn, Garcia Jose, Garcia Albano, Garin Richard, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gachalian, Heron, Goana Cristina, Go Mark, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzales Alexandria, Gonzales Aurelio Dong, Gonzales Fernando, Goriseta, Gulyas, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Halusos, Javier, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lagman, Lanete, Laugan, Lasatin, Liachon, Lee, Limkaychong, Lobrigat, Lopez Benhur, Lopez Carlo, Lopez Manuel, Loyola, Macapagal-Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Manalo, Mangawang, Mangudodato Suarto, Mangudodato Sajid, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariño, Marquez, Martinez, Matugas, Miliana, Mending, Mendoza, Mercado, Mirasol, Montoro, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Carlo, Nolasco, Nunez Maleñaon, Waminal, Ocampo, Olivares, Ong Edwin, Ong Henry, Ortega Pablo, Ortega Vini, Pacquiao, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panganiban, Panotes, Papandayan, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Primicia Sagabas, Kimbo, Radasa, Ramirez-Sato, Ramos, Relampagos, Revilla, Roa Puno, Robes, Rocamora, Rodriguez Isidro, Rodriguez Maximo, Roman, Romero, Romualdez, Romualdo, Roquehari, Roque Rogelio, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sahali, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Salon, Sambar, Sandoval, Santos Recto, Sarmiento Cesar, Sarmiento Edgar, Savillano, Sema, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez, Si Alvarado, Tan Bunting, Tan Angelina, Tan Milagrosa, Tan Sherney, Tejada, Teves, Chanco, Ting, Tiño, Tolentino, Treñas, Tugna, Tupas, Turabe Nataman, Ti, Umali, Unabia, Ungab, Unico, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Uy Barreta, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Vilarde, Velasco, Velasco Catera, Veloso, Vergara, Villaperte, Villanueva, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Villarin, Vilago, Yap Arthur, Yap Melesio, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Marcarmen, Zamora Ronaldo, Sarate, Subiri. Mr. Speaker, the roll call shows that 207 members responded to the call.
With 207 members responding to the call, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the change of referral of the following measures. House Bill 1473 from the Committee on Health to the Committees on Basic Education and Higher and Technical Education. House Bill 898 from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Higher and Technical Education. House Bill 985 and 1915 to the from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Women and Gender Equality. House Bill 1998 from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Trade and Industry. House Bill 1339 from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Local Government. House Bill 2006 from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Higher and Technical Education. House Bill 1367 from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Higher and Technical Education. House Bill 2551 from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Dangerous Drugs. House Bill 1084 from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Local Government. House Bill 1719 from the Committee on Agriculture and Food to the Committee on Agrarian Reform. House Bill 1669 from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Local Government. House Bill 2595 from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Games and Amusements. House Bill 2594 from the Committee on Health to the Committee on Games and Amusements. House Bill 767 from the Committee on Health to the Special Committee on Food Security. House Bill 3419 from the Committee on Agriculture and Food to the Special Committee on Food and Security. I so move, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Any objection to the motion? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with our rules governing inquiries in aid of legislation, I move that we refer the following House resolutions to the appropriate committees. House Resolution 335 to the Committee on Bank and Financial Intermediaries. House Resolution 338 to the Committee on National Defense. House Resolution 545 to the Committee on Indigenous Cultural Communities and Indigenous People. House Resolution 546 to the Committee on Games and Amusements. House Resolution 547 to the Committee on Ecology. House Resolution 549 to the Committee on Social Services. House Resolution 552 to the Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs. House Resolution 556 to the Committee on Public Information. House Resolution 557 to the Committee on Public Works and Highways. House Resolution 558 to the Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs. House Resolution 561 to the Committee on Youth and Sports Development. House Resolution 563 to the Committee on Transportation. House Resolution 565 to the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability. House Resolution 566 to the Committee on Energy. I so move, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Any objection to the motion? Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve Journal Number 49 dated November 28, 2016.
Any objection? Motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we adjourn session to Monday, December 6 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Motion to adjourn.
December 5.
And we will resume session December
5.
on Monday.